Welcome everyone to Baha'i Chat, a conversation series dedicated to our interconnectedness. It's an uplifting moment when we can turn our thoughts to spiritual ideas, each session rooted in the Baha'i Writings and the fundamental teachings of the oneness of God, the oneness of religion, and the oneness of mankind, led by individuals putting these principles into action. Baha'is believe that we are living in the great day of God, foretold by each of God's previous messengers who have established the major world religions. All of these divine educators are connected. Their messages are progressive, always leading mankind forward to new levels of unity. Each has been the bearer of a preordained message essential for the times. God's latest manifestation and founder of the Baha'i faith is Baha'u'llah. That is an Arabic title meaning the glory of God. Baha'u'llah appeared in Iran in the middle of the 19th century, bringing an unprecedented volume of teachings with the overarching and essential mission of the unification of the entire human race, a reality promised in the scriptures associated with each of God's former messengers. The needs of mankind have evolved through the ages, and hence the appearance of a succession of divine messengers. Referring to the progressive nature of revelation and the mission of the revealers of each of the religions of the world, Baha'u'llah writes this: "The all-knowing physician hath his finger on the pulse of mankind. Be anxiously concerned," he writes, "with the needs of the age ye live in, and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements." So what are the needs of the modern age with which we must be anxiously concerned? A global pandemic about to enter a new and even deadlier phase, indisputable evidence of climate change, systemic racism that seems intractable, historic numbers of refugees around the world, early warning signs that food insecurity is turning to famine in several parts of the planet. One view has it that these concurrent crises are aligning to create the perfect existential storm that threatens our very existence. But viewed from a different perspective, they're all in fact symptoms of a single spiritual disease, best described as the collective denial of the fundamental oneness of humanity. While every religion embodies this concept of the essential oneness of the human family, it is reconceived within the core tenets of the Baha'i faith as a practical modus operandi for the business of living. Oneness is set out as both a spiritual principle and a scientific reality. It is, in fact, from the Baha'i perspective, the central theme of God's call for the age. And as such, we are, whether conscious or not, whether cooperating or not, being moved toward that eventual reality. The pain that we're suffering individually and collectively is directly connected to the obstacles that we continue to erect toward its realization. On the other hand, we are promised that every effort made in assisting movement toward this preeminent goal ensures the rushing of universal forces to our aid. Here's what was written on the subject by Abdul-Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah and the center of his covenant. "In every century, a particular and central theme is, in accordance with the requirements of that century, confirmed by God. In this illumined age, that which is confirmed is the oneness of the world of humanity. Every soul who serveth this oneness will undoubtedly be assisted and confirmed." Today's program is an expression of the pursuit of the principle of oneness in action. We'll be speaking with the creator and some of the collaborators in the exciting initiative, The Universe Within. It's a new digital series that offers diverse explorations of our inherent oneness that serve as uplifting reminders in our day-to-day lives. The work brings people together from all walks of life to create original art, animation, and music inspired by the Baha'i Writings. Let's turn the program over to my co-host, Radiance Talley. Radiance is the CEO editor for BahaiTeachings.org and One Planet Group. She graduated from the University of Maryland with a degree in communication, a College Park Scholars Art Citation, and a cognate in journalism. In addition to her writing, drawing, presentation, and public speaking experience, Radiance also gained ample knowledge of theory building, negotiation, conflict management, interpersonal, intergroup, intercultural, and organizational communication, as well as anthropology, sociology, and cross-cultural psychology. Radiance is also proficient in Spanish and learned conversational French and German when studying abroad in Paris and Berlin. In her free time, she enjoys co-hosting workshops with her mother about what is needed for racial healing in the United States and writing and reciting her amazing poetry at various venues. She's written 2 books of original poetry and hopes to publish them soon. Radiance, welcome to the chat.
Thank you, David. Wow, it's so nice to be here and to host this panel about the digital artistic series, The Universe Within. And to begin, I'd like to introduce our panelists who were part of bringing this beautiful program to life. First, I'd like to introduce the creator and director, Joshua Homnick. With his heart set on bridging divides and expressing the principle of oneness, Joshua Homnick's adventures in media started in his teens as a breakdancer and TV actor in Chile. Now, decades later, with stints making shows for the likes of MTV, advertising in Japan and China, making documentaries for the Mescalero Apache tribe, and co-founding Soul Pancake with Rainn Wilson, he currently resides in LA, dedicated to connecting people from all walks of life to create the universe within. Welcome, Joshua. And next, next we have the visual artist, Akia Pacheco. She uses her art in many ways as a tool to sit with herself and try to find peace, as a way to offer prayer and praise, as an exercise in discipline, and just for fun. The way that art feels most sacred to her is when she can engage with her creativity and she feels this wave of inspiration. She says, "It rises and swells and falls into my awareness. I can feel the movement and the grace and the rhythm of it. It's very personal, this process, and it's one of the areas of my life where I seek to be the most honest." Welcome, Akia.
Thank you.
And we also have the songwriter, Amelia Rasekhy. She is Persian-American, Singapore-raised, LA-based singer, and her lyricist sister, Juliet, write diverse and uplifting alternative pop music with hints of jazz. From heartwarming mother-daughter stories like Daisy and Just Like You, to fun-loving bops about spiritual growth like Matcha Latte and London Show, their aspiration is to make music as a ladder for the soul. Ray was born in San Diego before moving around the world until the age of 19, and when she settled in Los Angeles to pursue a career in entertainment. Humming and whistling before she could speak, she's always had music in her bones. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here to tell us all about the universe within. And to begin, could you each briefly share what the universe within is all about for those who don't know, and just share what it means to you?
Great. Should I start off?
Sure.
So, I mean, I think what we're aiming to do is serve all the people who feel that inherent oneness and are looking for reminders throughout the day, really beautiful, art and music to keep them connected to that feeling and to even be inspired to explore it deeper and find that hidden in every corner of their being. Because of course we're being hit with all this other stuff about divisiveness and all these distractions. So having these reminders to offer is ultimately what it's about, being of service in that way. And in practice, it's these short animated films and songs and stories, all inspired by these gems, these quotes from the Baha'i Writings, and providing a platform for artists like Akia and Amelia to go within and come up with this amazing artwork and share it with everybody and build this community of people who are just connecting with all this stuff and sharing it.
Thank you, Josh. Akia, would you like to share?
Sure. This project is so special. Joshua's idea of combining a group of artists who all specialize in different things and pulling from themselves what their notion of spirit is and sort of infusing it into their art is to me a perfect example of what we need on the planet right now to remind us of who we really are and what we're capable of and how connected we are. So that quote that I thought you were going to say the quote, Joshua, dost thou consider thyself a puny form when within thee the universe is folded. It's such a magical, beautiful reminder of how divine we are and how little we remember that in our daily lives. So to do this project, means that you're constantly thinking about the universe within you and what that really means. And to me, it means that there's limitlessness to us. And the arts is one really quick and powerful way to connect your everyday to that limitlessness.
Amelia?
Hi. The universe within, I think, is, like you said, Akia, is so special. It feels to me like a really well thought out collection of artistic expression that kind of displays the indisputable, beautiful, joyful unity of our existence as human beings. Every episode that has been released and is to come is really a demonstration of the unity of our existence.
Absolutely. And so far, they have put out 3 episodes, and we're going to show you all, for those of you who may have not seen it, the 3rd episode that explores the art inspired by the pupil of the eye and racial justice in the Baha'i faith.
So many stories in those brown eyes, looking at the moon, sitting on earth, hoping it will bloom. All the stories in those brown eyes, hope we hear them soon. Despite the rain, you reflect the sun in your brown eyes, shining deep and true with light. Despite the rain, you reflect the sun, despite it all, you rise.
Your first instinct when you read that quote would be to maybe draw a person's eye and that's it. But there was a lot of feelings of social justice in reading the history behind the quote itself, and it served as empowerment for me.
What I loved so much about seeing that video was beauty. The beauty of being able to look at the flowers, the hills, the valleys, the sun, the movement of other bodies, the space that's around us, all coming through Black pupils.
There's just a lot of grief and trauma that these brown eyes have had to absorb and carry, and what this quote does, the metaphor, acknowledges the strength and resilience and the light that comes from those struggles.
Having that in writing, talking about Black people being the people of the eye and where light is drawn from and emanates, really started to fine-tune how I looked at the world and how I saw myself in the world.
I know the world knows that I'm being treated badly, but does God see it? And when I heard that quote, oh man, it messed me up.
Personally, I believe that racial justice won't come without spiritual transformation. And that's because I don't think that the issue is just systemic. If we understand our interconnectedness and that we are one, then we are much more likely to care for one another with tenderness.
Crazy how this big world keeps on turning. Lies at the thing going. If they only knew our roots, the way we hold this truth, they think they've seen you through. But there's more coming soon. It's the same side, it's the same fire in your eyes.
As an illustrator, how do you start showing love? How do you start showing abstract energy and connectivity of people? That's the letting part, letting the kindness out of us. We have a choice. We can let ourselves be happy and joyous and kind, or we can let ourselves be angry and mean and cruel.
If we want to be a whole society, then we got to come to terms with some real tension that's existing here that people try to avoid. But then they don't realize that when you avoid that tension, then you avoid being whole.
And I just feel like it's so important to set yourself low and to just be quiet and just allow people to speak and to vent and to get out everything that they've been through and have compassion and just be there.
Brown Eyes was the chance to kind of celebrate us as Black people, with or without us being champions for justice, but just with us being, you know, as human beings.
We are my favorite thing. We are humans being ... What are you being?
Como esta manera de expresar la diversidad, ¿no? En la naturaleza, sobre todo en las flores, pues se encuentra esta diversidad así infinita, ¿no?
O sea, sí era parte, ¿no? Como de esta intención de como descubrirnos o redescubrirnos.
The more we get to know each other, the more similarities we find, and the differences that we thought were keeping us apart start to melt away, and the differences that make us beautiful get highlighted, and then your empathy grows. So what that looks like is way more unity, smarter people, a deeper love of self and each other, because now I'm asking about who you are and what you are to celebrate it.
The line that I always keep saying, if we can't imagine, it can't come to fruition.
You need to create the world that you're hoping for. So as I look towards the future, I just think a lot of people are working hard to create the world that they want. And that makes me very excited.
We can't be in our maximum capacity as a world unless we're all equal. It just won't happen.
If this is the beauty that comes still in the face of oppression, can you imagine what it will actually be like when we are not oppressed?
It's the same sound, it's the same fire in your eyes. You reflect the light within. Despite the rain, you reflect the sun in your brown eyes, shining deep and true with light. Despite the rain, you reflect the sun. Despite it all, you rise.
Wow. That was such a beautiful, and just artistically stunning video where, I mean, the digital art, the illustrations, the lyrics were all so profound. Josh, can you share what inspired you to create these videos and what your vision is for this project?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything we've been talking about in terms of oneness and really what excited me is the potential for a conversation that is more heart to heart than intellectual and argumentative and trying to convince somebody else of something that can be found within. So I don't need to impose anything on anybody. It's more, I just want to connect with the hearts, and I feel, when I say I just mean like, I feel like that's most people, right? Or at least it can be the most satisfying thing for anybody. And I found over the years as an artist myself and interacting with artists and just being in the arts that, those connections I've had, I feel like we all can access them. And so this was such a great opportunity to give artists, like I said, like Akia and Amelia and all, like there's literally, I mean, we're working on 9 more episodes. We have 3 out. There's hundreds of artists on all these different axes that we've been collaborating with, and it's all about just them sharing their hearts. And really it's like a full contact sport, right? Because you get these quotes and it's not about dissecting and defining each word so you understand intellectually or rationally, which is really important, but it's like this more kind of what I've been saying, and from what I understand, and it's like this kind of feminine spirit approach of this comprehension. It's like right brain engagement with these deep topics and sharing and we get to experience it, and so it ends up being this dialogue that's compositing this whole. It's like reflecting all of our truths and discovering all these great new things. So that's just that's what drives me, that's what excites me, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. So I hope that answers it.
It does. Thanks, Josh. And yeah, you talked really a lot about that, the heart connection, right? And one thing that stood out to me in that video, Naima, the lead vocalist, said that she talked about the grief and trauma in those brown eyes. Akia, can you share how the Baha'i writings about the pupil of the eye has influenced your identity and how you see yourself and how that is reflected in your art?
Well, for this project in particular, and lately the art that I make, I'm always thinking about who I'm representing. And for this particular piece, though it wasn't in this episode, it's similar in that there were Black hands that had interactions with nature. And my purpose in focusing on those, Black hands is to sort of invite people to look at Black people as the holders of purity and light. And, when I think of someone being a pupil of the eye, like the pupil of the eye, it makes me think of a healer. It makes me think of someone who can do 2 things at once. And in order to be this infinitely Black thing, yet hold all of this light, means to me that you can, you have the ability to hold a very big space for people. And that's how I view Black people right now in this era. as being, whether they know it or not, the keepers of a very ancient truth and the holders of a very great capacity to heal. And so what I see is something that is transformative, in that, you know, a lot of holistic and healing spaces don't really invite Black and brown aesthetic. And so what I wanted to focus on is just, you know, making a person see a Black person walking across the street and identify them first as being a person of spirit, a person who's pure, a person who prays, a person who knows who they are. Just reminding us to like lift up, elevate the way that we see each other. And that's something that I think we can learn a lot from Black people and how to do that. But it's something that is inherent in all of us. But right now, the way the world is set up, and specifically Black people being like the people of the eye, when I put those things together, it reminds me that, oh, we do have a very special role in reminding people of our light and the inherent light of all of us, all people.
That's beautiful. And I think that it was an important part that you brought up about this great capacity for healing. And the arts also especially can be very cathartic and healing. Can you also share how your art has perhaps healed or empowered you?
Oh, yeah. There's a very intimate practice when you're doing your art. And Abdul Baha, who is the son of Baha'u'llah, said that he was happy to hear that someone took pains with their art, because he says that in this wonderful age, art is worship. And practicing your art is, he said, it's like when your fingers grasp the paintbrush, it's as if you're praying in the temple. And so practicing art has been very healing for me, because it reminds me of the fact that I am not alone in the process, and that there is something called inspiration that comes, and it is a very real thing that visits you. And to interact with that takes a lot of courage and a lot of humility for me. And so it brings healing because I get to know myself more, which helps me to know my connection to the Creator more. It's hard to put that in words, but hopefully I did enough for you to understand what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes about visual arts, that about the paintbrush. And it's amazing how that inspiration that comes to us artists is from the Holy Spirit, right? The writings say that all art is a gift of the Holy Spirit. And it's definitely, art is it's a really, I think, profound an experience, because it's a way to kind of to vent. It's cathartic, and it's can be so refreshing to the spirit. I know as a poet, I always say that our art is a way to create beauty from pain. You know, it's you take the pain in your heart and you create art out of it. And with every word that I write, I feel that the burden loosens, and the burden loosens a little bit with each word. And Amelia, as a lyricist, those lyrics were so beautiful about these stories in those brown eyes. Despite the rain, you reflect the sun. There's so much to unpack in that. I mean, Despite the rain, you reflect the sun. Despite it all, you rise. Can you walk us through your songwriting process of what it was like to create that song? What inspired you to write those lyrics?
Sure. My job was a little bit more of the music writing, but we were all, all of the songwriters were collaborating. I would say equally. I have to give so much of the credit to Imana, who is one of the co-lyricists, and she had a little interview in the video, but I remember we all sit and like individually will write ideas based on the quotations that the writers of the show give to us, and we discuss their meanings, and then we go and write on our own and think about, and come up with melody, come up with chord progressions, and work based off what we call them song seeds that Josh gives us, and they're so fun to work with. But when we all come together, I remember in this particular episode, it was myself and my sister Juliet and Imana, and we're on this joint FaceTime, and we're like, okay, it's time to write the racial justice episode, the Brown Eyes episode. And Imana just starts writing. She everything, just like blurting everything out, and like no stops, and we all looking at this document. And just to give context, like most songwriters, when they're like, I would say most of the time when you're writing, you're like, you write like a few words and then you think for a really long time. You're like, how should this go? Does this align? Does this make sense? But she was just spilling out this beautiful truth of these lyrics, and it felt like someone was giving her a voice, or like putting a microphone in front of her and allowing her to share her story, which then allows all this whole population of people to connect and relate and feel heard and feel seen and feel represented. So Imana, it was all I mean, we all contributed and we all worked together, but yeah, she really opened it up.
Thank you for sharing that and for highlighting that point that art lets us feel seen and heard and understood and represented and valued. I want to show, there was another illustration. There was a unique illustration in this video of this Black woman underneath this veil. And I think there's a lot of symbolism here. And I wanted to know, what does this represent to each of you?
So this was done by Leo Monsoy, and then there was a whole team that animated it. And and the quote that he was working off of and drawing inspiration from is about the flowers of the garden, and the how beautiful that garden is if there's diversity. And of course, he gets access to all the other quotes that are in the episode. So he proposed a number of concepts. This was one of them. And it was like black and white. At first, it was just black and white, pencil on paper. And for me, when I first saw it, I thought it was such a great piece in relation to the episode, and how, like, the hope, like how we just haven't seen anything yet, like everything, and it's said in the episode, like all the beauty we have, all this stuff, like we're what we will see when oppression lifts and there's justice and harmony, like the potential latent in humanity, not just and here it's showing this Black woman who we haven't really been able to see, but we haven't really been able to see anybody fully, And so to me, that was the thing that really resonated with me about the imagery.
Akia or Amelia, did you want to add anything to that?
You know, every time you see it is something, other thing, you know, new things come to you. So today it's just looking at what can veil us, you know, from the truth. And how simple it is, how insurmountable it feels sometimes to get around a veil, but how simple it is. And it also, the transparency of her veil sort of reminds me of, it makes me think of awareness, and how really it's awareness that can shift everything. And as simple as it would be to just lift that veil over her, allowing her to see more clearly, or allowing us to see her more clearly. I think that's the role that awareness plays in humanity, waking up to our interconnectedness, and how we are truly one, you know. It's just a very subtle shift. Yeah.
Thank you. Amelia, did you want to add anything?
There's a, you know, I think each person will see this and have a different feeling. And the reason I say that is because I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. I always struggle with reading art. It's something that I feel really sensitive about. But what I feel mostly with my heart when I see this, and it's not a logical thing, but is that unfortunately this world that we live in, it's like all of us have a veil in front of our eyes that's the white world, and how limiting it is when that's the filter through which we see everything. This is a white world, a white man's world, you know. And if we are able to remove that veil and use the purity of our own eyes, and like in this case, the I use this word indisputable a lot, but the indisputable purity of these brown eyes, see things in a different way, and it helps bring us to a truth that we can't come to if this white veil is in front of us.
Yeah. I think it's definitely significant that this veil is white, right? That is covering this Black woman. You know, when I think of this, it kind of reminds me of how, you know, of course, this is inspired by, you know, the Flowers of One Garden that talks about the beauty of diversity. And yet, you know, sometimes, you know, people kind of use the saying like, I don't see color. And she's not, I see this invisibility of Black beauty, of Black woman, of Black people, of not being seen, you know, through this white filter, as you're talking about. And like you can see with like she's holding it with one arm, and then there's the other arm holding that arm, and you can really see the struggle. It's not, you know, it's not an easy feat. All of the artwork in this video was just so phenomenal, and there is just so many hidden in spiritual meanings in every single one. Can you all share what your artistic process is like from the conception of an idea to a finished product? And because you know, for the artist who may have ideas but may not be sure where to start, can you offer them advice?
Sure. You know, and Akia's piece, you know, is in the liberation of self episode, liberation from the prison of self. So definitely everybody should check that out, because you know, the same process that went into this one goes into all of them, and there's so much, you know, you can watch it every single, like watch every art piece every single day throughout the day and get new meaning, new inspiration and everything, because you know, I think the process is very much about not dictating to the artists what to do. Like we're not treating them as designers. There's nobody showing up and being like, hey, you know, here's our interpretation and we're going to you because we like your style and we want you to do the thing in your style. The conversation starts with, you know, we talk about, you know, I'll share what I see in it, and, you know, other things along the way that we pick up in terms of meaning. But ultimately, it's about drawing out the vision that the artist has, which by the way applies to everybody, even if they call themselves an artist or not. We all have vision, and there's levels of trusting that. If I say one sun, many mirrors, you see something, right? So part of this is about saying to everybody, like, yeah, explore that. What do you see? What is that image, right? And these quotes have such strong visual imagery, and the Baha'i writings in general do. And that imagery alone, that poetic imagery, is meant to be transformative and healing, and you know, meant to unlock your greatest potential and to get you to unravel that universe within us. So we take that approach with the visual artists. So we go to Akia and we say, here's this quote. What are you seeing? Right? First and foremost, it's not the style, like I said, it's just, what do you see as an artist? And go for it, you know, share with us what it is you see. And then the rest is straight up just execution, you know? And Akia will speak to it way better than me.
Yeah, that's definitely how the conversation was. It was the best conversation. It's so fun to talk about spirit things with Joshua, because you make it so easy, you know. So to the quote that he asked me to focus on is from Baha'u'llah, and it's free. The whole quote is, "O my servant, free thyself from the fetters of this world, and loose thy soul from the prison of self. Seize thy chance, for it will come to thee no more." And when I thought of that, I imagined what I imagined, and then I painted it, and then I told him about the idea of what came to me, and he was like, "Yeah, great, run with that, go for it." And so I painted a series of paintings that came from thinking about that quote. And, you know, when I imagined what fetters are in this world right now, to me, they happen to be, well, there are many, but the one that I was focusing on was fear. And so the way that I get out of my fear, one of the ways, I have many tools. One is nature. So I decided to paint these hands who have very, very long nails. And on those nails is a reflection of whatever that person whose hands they are, whatever they're going through, whatever they're focused on, wherever they're at in their heart or in their mind or soul space is going to be reflected in their beautiful nails. So these hands started to interact with nature, and as they picked up things in nature, it got reflected in their hands, which is just a symbol of freeing myself from the fetters of this world. And my favorite part of that quote is the first two words, which is "free thyself," which to me is such a command, where I'm in the hands of the creator, but the creator's asking me to do it. You know, I'm not told like, "I'll free you when you," no, it's, you have to do it. So it was just a beautiful process to think about something as sacred as a holy writing, and then make some art about it. And then the process of handing it over to animators and like letting go, you know, another like loose yourself, like loose your art to another team who's going to animate it and turn it into something else, which includes their vision, and which is beautiful. It's a beautiful process.
And if you haven't already, please watch episode 1 so you can see the animation of Akia's art, just what she's saying, because when the nail touched part of nature, then you can see the relationship and interconnectedness. So, and Amelia, did you want to speak to that question?
Sure, definitely. Just from a music perspective, you know, and I'm sure all the arts are this concept will apply, but in the Baha'i Writings it talks about music being a ladder for the soul, and so I think when we choose to create, we choose to express ourselves artistically, we have to figure out what is at the center of that expression. Is the center the self? Is the center oppression? Is the center, you know, like, is this something that is negative, or is this something that is positive and something that is, the center is turning towards God, our creator? Is it something that's centered on uplifting humanity? And that's the first step, I think, to being able to feel confident in expression. You know, the word confident is not the same as arrogant. It's con, which is with, and fid, which is trust. So what are you putting that trust into, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think the second part of that is the elimination of the word should, if you will. You know, I hear myself even, but I hear a lot of artists say like, oh, my art should be like this, or I should do this, or I shouldn't do this. And that just like blocks out any healthy expression. And so long as we're putting something useful and heart oriented at the center of our art, all we have to do is what you said, Josh. Take what's in here, put it out there. Akia, you said the same thing. Whatever is in here, or in here, really, pull it out in your head and your heart. Pull it out, and that's your expression. It doesn't have to look like another person's or, you know, anything.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting the importance of artists to be confident and trust in their own capacity and their own work. And, you know, racial justice is so important to all of our hearts as Baha'is. Can each of you share how you're using your art to contribute to racial healing and justice in our nation?
I mean, I think making this episode was one, and I think in general, just the platform, a big part of it is, you know, for me, is getting out of the way in a sense, right? Obviously, there's a ton I can do, and I do my best, but I think a big part of it is getting out of the way, listening, you know, just really listening and taking it in, and kind of, you know, seeding the floor and just making space, I guess, is the thing. Yeah. And being of service, you know, just listening for opportunities of service.
Yeah, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think sometimes I feel like I have to, or not have to, but sometimes I feel like I get an opportunity to go do something about racial justice or about racial healing in our country through my art, or I get to participate in something like this where I'm very focused on not only creating something that's authentic to me, but also knowing it's a collaborative piece, and the focus is to inspire people from all over to connect with their own universe within, and whatever that looks like for them. Or if I'm collaborating with somebody else, I might have that collaboration in the forefront of my mind. But on a daily basis, just me being me and making art is contributing to racial justice on the planet. I think if I'm doing my art, then that's enough. Sometimes that's what I can give, and that is going to contribute, because I am who I am and I'm showing up in my art.
Thank you. Amelia, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I love what you said, Akia. I was thinking, like, I hope she says something like that. Before I say my own thoughts regarding my own self, I wanted to say, Josh, that I think what you're doing is more than just listening. You know, we can sit and listen to people who've been oppressed and let them tell their stories, or we can use our privilege and our, platform or whatever, and bring up those people and allow them to share so that others will listen. And that's more, I think, of what the whole purpose is. So I love that. And then for myself, I try not to watch the news. I get really upset with everything that happens. It sits with me for a long time, but I also try my best to be conscious of what's going on in the world and aware, and incorporating that into my art and letting that hurt me allows this expression of into my songwriting, and those are the songs that really matter. I'm not the least or most privileged person in the world, but I can use moments of empathy to connect with those who feel the pain of prejudice and oppression, as a woman, as a person of color. I think it's so important that people use this time and express. This is so pressing. Everything that's happening is so pressing. I just wrote a song called Human too, and I'm hoping to release it as soon as possible. But yeah, it's just the purpose is to take what's going on right now and connect with people, and allow people to be heard and feel seen.
Thank you. And thank you all for creating this artwork that, that allows viewers to get, a glimpse of how the Baha'i Writings have inspired and empowered you, and to get a glimpse of your inner world, this universe within, and allowing us all to see that world visually that we're all hoping for. Now we're going to start our Q&A portion where we can hear from you, the audience. So I see we have some questions here in our Q&A. One person said, does this project seek to inspire or empower our capacity to contribute to the arts and engage with the creativity inherent to all of us? Like, how does this project answer to people saying, I am not good at art? Who would like to answer that question?
I'd love to start it off. I think, we spoke to it in the earlier portion, but when we're talking about vision, what do you see? That's the thing that we definitely, that's part of what this project is about, is because when you go and look at all the content, there's a lot of little mini documentaries of the artists talking about, coming up with the artwork, and the singers and songwriters talking about creating the songs and everything. And, you know, the hope is that people are inspired to do it, not because of execution, whether they're bad at it or good at it, or, you know, or not inspired. You're not going to be inspired if you think you're bad at it, right? But, you know, just saying, like, really, this is about what you see and what you get when you draw inspiration from these amazing, beautiful visual metaphors and analogies that are in the Baha'i writings, that are all ultimately about oneness, right? So really, hopefully it encourages everybody to go through the process regardless of your ability to execute, because it's about, just if you can communicate what you're seeing or start to, and then have a conversation about it, you're engaging a whole other way of knowing, a whole other way of understanding from the heart and from this whole other realm, right? Versus reading left to right, analyzing the words. It's what is it conjuring in you? So anyway, how about you, Akia or Amelia?
I think that you nailed it. That's, you know, you have to listen to get comfortable with the different ways you receive information. Sometimes it's when you see something beautiful and it reminds you of yourself, or a feeling of peace comes over you. Sometimes you might hear something. Sometimes you'll know it in your body. Sometimes, yeah, we receive messages in different ways, and whether you're an artist or not, you can listen to those messages and bring whatever the message is into the world. And that's you engaging with your own creativity.
I do want to add, by the way, you know, most of the artists that you see in all these episodes, they're from all walks of life. Like they're you know, it's not so much about, you know, having grown up with these quotes or anything. You know, it's even your first encounter with them, whatever your beliefs are, whatever religion you come from, whatever ethnicity, social strata, etc., right? So there's, you know, there's so much to find, and the richness of what we all get from your particular reflection. Again, whatever your ability, it's about, what is it conjuring you, and can you share enough of it so that we can all be enriched by what you discover, your little facet of the whole that you're reflecting.
Absolutely. And one person had a question for Amelia. They said, how does the art influence the songwriting process?
Yeah, we, especially now as we're writing more episodes, we're learning more about this relationship between the visual art and the music. We start writing just from the quotes. And then when we get some of the visuals, the visual artists are also looking at the quotes and drawing their inspiration from that. And then once we have the visuals, we continue to expand on what we've already created, or even write some things that are new, based on what we feel in our hearts. Again, like I don't know if I can overemphasize this enough, that this is about the heart. It's not about logic, and it's about the senses, you know. So yeah, we see, and one thing that's beautiful, I'm sure I mentioned it before, is just that everyone understands or feels something different when it presented with a quotation or an image or whatever. And so the fact that we have multiple songwriters coming together and contributing to one song or 3 songs or however many, just that unity of thought, unity and diversity, of comprehension, or like of what we feel in the art, creates the song that's so diverse and beautiful. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So speaking of this group of artists, let's see, we have one question from Nancy Ewing who says, is this a set group of Baha'i artists and artistic company? How often do you meet and how long does it take to create or produce each episode? Do you accept outside work from other artists, Baha'is or non-Baha'is?
Yes, so it's you know, it's on its way. The potential is for it to just become this dynamic community of artists from all walks of life. So it's not a limited group of artists, and all artists are invited to follow us on Instagram. Let us know about your particular kind of artwork, because we're constantly reaching out to artists from all over the world, to see how we can include them in the episodes. And you know, we're just getting going, so it takes a little longer to do the episodes and do the workflow. So to answer the question about timing, I think the first 3 that are there, how long did it take, Amelia? And I mean, it's like, I feel like it took about a year.
Yeah, it took a long, not a year.
9 months. It was 9 months.
It took about 9 months. Yeah, a whole pregnancy.
Like yeah, and so there were 3, so maybe 3 months, but I think we can get it down to, you know.
Yeah, it's already being condensed. You know, it's new.
Yeah.
We're learning, and the more we do it, the more efficient.
Yeah, we try to work with each artist depending on how much time they need, yeah, and I'm not sure if Nancy's asking in terms of timing, you know. I guess from the point of view, it's more about from the point of view of the artist, like how much time commitment would they need. So it's about, for the visual artists, it's about a week. For songwriting, I think we're starting to change it up, the process. So it'll be condensed time. Amelia she's just so generous with her time and just, showing up and making things happen. Our process we're working it out, so it took a lot longer, and she just went with it. The results I love them. I think they're amazing. I think
it's all online. Like, we can't really know how long, and it's not like, for at least for the songwriters, I don't know what it's like for you, Josh. I'm sure it's much more 9 to 5-y, but for me, it's not. It's like, do a bunch of work for a couple hours and then not do anything the next day, and then the following day do a lot of stuff, and so it's hard to gauge how much time or energy was really spent. It's just like, and when the product is so important, you're not like, how much time am I spending on this?
Yeah.
Faith says, Josh, can you tell us more about how you're hoping we use this project?
Yes. So, I think we can't say it enough, like, blanket permission, like, use these things in all different ways, and people have talked about how they're using them, from like conversation starters, because we also offer little pieces of what you just saw. So it's, there's the full episode, but you can also just grab the short animated films from each. Like, you could take Akia's and then the quote shows up at the end, and just share that with somebody, just because you love it, or because they're going through something and it's going to serve their spirit to encounter her beautiful piece, and some people save them. They make playlists and go back every day and just go through it, and it inspires them. It reminds them of what they want to accomplish, what they want to, where they want to operate from, what stories they tell themselves about how the world works, that we are one, and all this kind of stuff. So it's really, I hope people come up with all kinds of ways to use this art and music and these stories beyond anything we've thought of, and let us know how you use them. But but you have blanket permission, like use them, please.
Yes, and please follow the Universe Within. You can see their Instagram, their YouTube page, their song list. So please do so. Yeah, a man named Albert Taborn says, how is the power of equity manifest in your initiative, and how is this carried over to the management and initiation of the projects?
It's considered at the highest level. I mean, the impetus to do this came from Spring Green Films, and the executive producers there, Ford and Maya, and the owner, Steve Sarowitz. It's like top priority is, unity and diversity, and of course it's coming from a place of empowerment, but also just the deep belief that that's where we're going to get the maximum potential, right? And the greatest results. So it's very much, what's the word? Not belabored, but like we're like, it's very top of mind how to do this in the most equitable way, the fairest way, opening up opportunities for people of color as much as possible, and really observing so that we can reflect on the process and improve it and share it. At the very beginning, it was like, what's our process of learning, with the goal of being able to share our learnings.
Okay, so Alan Smith says, Baha'u'llah teaches, thou art my lamp, and my light is within me, get thou from it thy radiance. Could it be that more than the physical universe is within us, or do you feel this includes the spiritual universe as well? Yeah. If I can add to that, if I can answer that question, I will say that, the quote that does thou consider thyself of puny form when within thee the universe is folded? That's in a book called The 7 Valleys and 4 Valleys, where they actually, when they said that quote in context, they actually were talking about these spiritual stages and planes that are folded and hidden away within us on our spiritual search and connection and unity with God. So to answer your question, yes, that does absolutely include the spiritual universe. Judy says, are the artists on the Universe Within site?
We're so getting going with this. We don't even have a website, so I'm not sure what they're looking at, other than, we have the YouTube. We're on YouTube, so we have the YouTube profile and we have the Instagram profile. But a website is definitely in the works, and even a whole marketing approach on how to get it out there. Like, we're just kind of populating those 2 platforms so far. We got TikTok to deal with and so on and so forth. But because we're doing these mini docs about all the artists, the plan is to have them on the site and have the site curate all this content so it's easy to navigate. But if you go on YouTube, there are playlists where you can learn about the artists through their mini docs, right? So so far it's like the interface is just limited to what YouTube can offer. But I think that answers that question, right?
Yes, I think so. And you also, on your YouTube site, you also spotlight different artists too, right? And show their process.
Yeah. So it's their process, and there's little little mini docs about their background and just about them, right? So there's about their process on the episode or creating the art segment they create, and then there's one about them themselves, biographical.
Anonymous attendee says, how do you decide on the topics and quotes used?
Oh, just one more point about the previous one. We still haven't released all the mini docs about the musical artists, though. Just so if somebody is looking for the one on Amelia, which is awesome, we haven't released it yet. We're you know, we're getting there. And all the other musical artists. They're so awesome. So sorry, what was that question?
Right. How do you decide on what topics and quotes you will use?
That's a process where we get together with Ford and Maya and Steve and myself and two writers that are involved, Makina and Nassim, Makina Rivers and Nassim Mansouri. And we have conversations, and we consider, you know, the visual metaphors in the Baha'i writings. We consider the key, like North Star is about encouragement and hope, and you know, really staying away from any sense of you know, cautionary tale kind of stuff. It's really about empowerment. It's about inspiration to find these answers within. So, and of course, it's about prescience. Like, what is top of mind for people? What will be of service? You know, what are people going through, and how can we be of service to them? What are these topics that will be most of service to explore? Yeah.
And another person says, how can we all tap into our universe within? If we don't feel artistic, how can we overcome that and create?
Great question.
Sort of along the lines of what we've been sharing, that if you're asking that question, there must be something that you want to create. And if you don't know what that is, that's okay. And I think your only job, anyone's job, is to be aware of the call that you have. If it's to, you know, sit and be still, then you should sit and be still. If it's to pick up a pen, you should pick up a pen. If it's to draw, you should draw. If you don't think you're good at drawing, that's okay. Because what does good mean? I think that really what I've learned personally is that any inspiration that I get is not about what other people are going to think about it. It's not about who's going to say it's important. It's about a very intimate relationship that I have with the creator. And if I have a feeling or a calling to do something, I have to do that thing, and then I have to do it again, and then I have to do it again until it becomes a process. And then I can even look at it like, hey, I've been doodling these circles for a while now. I think there's something here with these circles. And then maybe wherever the circle inspiration came from, ask it. Is there anything else you want me to do with these circles? Am I supposed to, you know, what am I supposed to do? And you'll get an answer. So, you know, I think, yeah, if you're asking, that there's something there for you, and it could be creative or not. It could be, but I think the nature of engaging with that is creative. Engaging with that inspiration.
Thank you, Akia.
I have I saw a question I wanted to answer because I'm seeing that maybe it wasn't perceived as being answered. That the universe within is not an exclusive project. It's not made just by Baha'is, and it's not for just Baha'is. There are people who are not Baha'is who are artists and, you know, collaborators on it. And the episode you saw has, you know, it's not, I think what Josh said is not limited to just Baha'is. So it's for everyone, by everyone.
And I see one question. Okay, this is in response to my point about creating beauty from pain. One person said, does making art from pain have anything to do with dwelling on the unpleasant things of life? No. So just to clarify, it's not like I'm thinking of what is something unpleasant to think about and then trying to write about it. No, it's like, for example, if I'm experiencing racism or sexism or exclusion or what have you, that is painful. So I already have that pain inside of me from from this discrimination, from this oppression. And so the writing, the poetry or the visual art, that is my therapy and source of healing. It is relieving the tension that I already have, just to clarify.
Also, one thing that, if you're talking to somebody who is in pain, and you ask them, tell me what you're feeling, and you just listen to them, that person can be relieved very greatly from their pain. And so I think sharing any pain in any kind of art expression, sometimes as the viewer, you can just view it. And that is, your way of showing that you're a witness to whatever it is that you're engaging with, the truth of it, the validity of it, or just witnessing that it's there. I think that is such a powerful thing that art offers, is that it's just saying, I'm here, and this is what I am. This is what it is. And then you can interact with it in the way that you do.
I wanted to add to like the in terms of our process on the Universe Within, and the kind of the attitude about art making at the foundational level, it really aligns with assessing the reality of our existence in the moment and facing truths. And some of those truths are really hard, but it really is not about denying it or pretending everything's great and we all are one, in action already. It's about our inherent oneness, but it's also about like, what are we going through right now, and I think and awareness, and bringing attention to things in the process. We're offering hope in the result, but in the process, we're not going to artists and being like, hey, here's this thing we want you to do, and you have to deny what you're feeling, right? It's not about that at all. It's what's in your heart, what's in your soul. Share that, being inspired by these quotes. So it's, I think there's when you're dealing with spiritual topics, there's a knee jerk to want everything to be, all pretty and what's the term, like kumbaya and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's not our reality right now. In terms of how society is organized and all this, we have a ways to go. So it is, it's not about denial in any way. And so if you feel pain, that's what you're feeling. And yeah.
I also feel like there's a prayer that where it's almost like an affirmation, where you're stating the things and you're sort of bringing your soul along to not dwell on the unpleasant things of life. I find that I dwell on the unpleasant things of life when I don't get it out in my art, or I don't speak up about it, or I don't find the outlet appropriate for the feeling that's causing me pain.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, one attendee, she spoke about the impact that image of the Black woman under that veil had on her. This isn't a question, but I think it's very beautiful. It's very she's very descriptive as to what the impact that had on her. She said, "This image appears to me as a Black woman being strung up as if on a whipping post. She is veiled and cannot see clearly what is before her, due to oppression, perhaps. Simultaneously, the spectators or oppressors cannot see her beauty either. There is beauty, strength, struggle, and torture in this image." That was a very profound, comment and feedback for the artist who created that. So thank you for sharing that. And Another attendee says, what is the hope for the universe within? What's coming next?
More songs, you know, more episodes, more amazing art, little art films, animated art films.
Really
So
good songs I love, and I can't wait for people to hear them. I love them.
upcoming topics are the afterlife, the environment, and spark of truth, like the process of celebrating our different points of view and having them come together to create this spark of truth, right? And the hope is high hopes, so many hopes, but really just that people put them to use, you know, put it to use and incorporate it into their lives. And ultimately, you know, it comes from this conviction that the imagery in and of itself, these really simple phrases that are in the Baha'i writings that have these beautiful poetic visual imagery, it's not just decoration. It's like the heart of it. Like that's this like spiritual heart-to-heart language that's transformative. It's not just flowery poetry and then some commandment, right? That's not what it's about. At least from my point of view. So so the hope is that this visual imagery is inspiring to as many people as possible, and it actually has a uplifting, beneficial effect in their lives, you know, and that these pieces get incorporated into people's lives to serve in that way, like really to be of service in this deep transformative way.
Thank you all so much for being here today and for sharing, you know, the inspiration behind and the hope and the process of what went into creating that very visually beautiful series, The Universe Within. So everyone, please check out their videos, their episodes, and, you know, get excited for what's to come. And now we're going to invite David back for some closing comment.
Really just want to thank all of you again, Radiance, Josh, Akia, Amelia. Very rich conversation. You know, as you were addressing this question about pain, you know, it occurs to me as well that, you know, the world is in so much pain right now. And I think that often we want to hide it away. And I think it's so powerful when it's, you know, as you said, Radiance, it's not being expressed like, here's my pain. It's something I think that touches the soul. I heard a beautiful talk recently by a psychologist, Michael Penn. And one of the things that he said really struck me, that there is evidence now that when we are in a condition of empathy, when our empathy is increased, so are the conditions such that change within us is more readily realized. And I'm thinking as well, as I watch this amazing piece that was shared today, like if you're not feeling that when you see it, I just can't even imagine. It's just, and it creates empathy. It creates thought that, you know, can we rise above the conditions we're in? So congratulations to you all. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And we hope those that are with us today have enjoyed it. Thank you so much